It's funny how life works, isn't it? One minute, you're giving your entire being to a company, feeling utterly disposable. The next, that same boss who kicked you to the curb is practically on his knees, begging you to save his empire. That's my life right now. And honestly, I'm sleeping like a baby. I haven't known this kind of deep, peaceful sleep since before I started working for him a decade ago. Every morning, I wake up, check my phone, and it's the same story unfolding. Mark's company, once this boutique medical imaging firm I poured my soul into, is just rotting from the inside out. I track it all, the procurement flags spreading, the regulatory demands piling up, their vendor status reviews getting pulled. It's all meticulously logged in a spreadsheet, the very same one I used to track my unpaid weekends for him. It's like watching a sports game where I already know the final score. To understand how we got here, how this man ended up desperate enough to call me after firing me with a smirk, we have to go back. Way back. I'm 33, male, and for 10 years, I was the lead engineer at this specialized medical imaging firm. We built equipment that hospitals needed to keep their MRI machines running perfectly. Super niche, six-figure units, maybe 15 companies in the entire country did what we did. You couldn't fake expertise in this field. Hospital procurement departments are like sharks when it comes to compliance. A miscalibrated MRI can lead to a misdiagnosis of a tumor or a brain injury. One mistake, and you're blacklisted. No room for error. I was employee number 3. I watched this company grow from a garage startup to 8 figures annually. And I worked 517 weekends in a row. Yeah, I counted. I kept a spreadsheet because I had a rule: if it's not in writing, it didn't happen. So, I documented everything. The spreadsheet, the emails, the empty promises. My boss, Mark, never paid me overtime. Not once. He called a weekend work voluntary, but he kept a mental scoreboard of who answered his calls. His favorite line? You're salaried. This is what leadership looks like. All while dangling a VP of engineering promotion. Keep grinding. VP role is yours once we cross 10 million annually. We crossed that 18 months ago. My email asking about it got a one-line reply: not the right time. Focus on the work. I missed my sister Sarah's wedding for that company. Had to watch it on a video call from my home office while simultaneously troubleshooting a calibration error for a hospital in Dallas. Mark's response when I mentioned it? That's dedication. The company appreciates employees who understand priorities. As if the building itself was going to send me a thank you card. But I was good. Really good. 6 patents on calibration algorithms, filed in my name back when we were tiny because Mark didn't want to pay for proper assignments yet. The company just had an exclusive license while I was employed. I wrote the entire software stack from scratch. Built client relationships, one phone call at a time, over 10 years. Clients asked for me by name, not the company. Me, a hospital network VP, once told Mark in a meeting, "We only trust your guy. If he's not on the call, we're not signing." Mark knew it. Everyone knew it. I was the product. I had a partner, Jessica. Met her at a conference 2 years ago, proposed 8 months later. She worked in med device sales for a competitor, which made Mark paranoid I was leaking trade secrets. I wasn't. But that didn't stop him from making comments in meetings about how convenient it was that my girlfriend understood the industry so well. Then, 4 months ago, a Friday at 4:47 in the afternoon, Mark called me into his office. That specific time should have been my first warning sign. Nothing good ever happens at 4:47 on a Friday. That's the time slot reserved for conversations your boss doesn't want you to have time to process before the weekend. A woman I'd never seen before was sitting there. Mid-40s maybe, wearing a blazer with the price tag still sticking out. Mark was chewing gum, looking relaxed, like this was just another Tuesday. He introduced her as Brenda. brought in to help modernize our engineering processes while we search for permanent leadership. She had that yoga instructor energy, warm smile, lots of hand gestures. Mark leaned back, that smug look he always got when he thought he was about to win something. We're restructuring. Brenda is stepping in as interim VP of Product Quality Transformation. Consulting basis initially, then we'll see where it goes. The VP role. The one he'd dangled for 18 months since we hit the revenue target. The one I'd sacrificed weekends and holidays and my sister's wedding for. He was handing it to someone who looked like she just walked out of a hot yoga class. I looked at her. I looked at him. I looked back at her. What's your technical background? She grinned, like she'd just won a carnival prize. Engineering is just problem solving, right? I'm great at that. I solved all kinds of problems running a wellness business. Scheduling conflicts, equipment maintenance, customer complaints. It's all the same skill set when you really think about it. I didn't say what I was thinking, which was that calibrating medical imaging equipment is slightly more complex than deciding which yoga mats to order. Mark cut in before I could respond. We're letting you go, effective immediately. And before you get any ideas about going to a competitor or starting something yourself, you signed a non-compete agreement. 2 years, no medical imaging work. You're done in this industry. He leaned forward, satisfied. You're not special, buddy. You're just cheap labor that got too expensive. We can find another engineer. Probably someone younger who doesn't expect so much. I leaned back. And smiled. The kind of smile you give when someone just showed you all their cards, and they're holding nothing but junk. Send me everything in writing, I said. Stood up. Straightened my jacket. The termination letter, the non-compete, all of it. I want documentation. Mark looked confused for a second, like he expected me to argue or beg. You know what the best part of this conversation is, Mark? You think you're firing me, but what you actually just did is trigger every reversion clause in those 6 patents I filed. The ones your entire product line depends on. Employment termination means license renegotiation. It's right there in the contracts. Page 7, Section 3, Subsection B. You signed them. Remember? Mark's smile faltered. Just for a second. But hey, I added, I'm sure Brenda here can figure that out. She's great at problem solving. I looked at her. Good luck with the calibration algorithms. They're only the core of everything this company manufactures, but I'm sure YouTube has some tutorials. I walked out before he could respond. Didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me pack. Didn't say goodbye to anyone. The security guard who escorted me, Mr. Henderson, was a guy I'd known for 8 years. Good guy. We used to chat about his kids, his wife's health issues, his fishing trip plans. Now he had to walk me out like I was a criminal. He wouldn't make eye contact, just kept looking at the floor. I didn't blame him. He was just doing his job. But it hit different. You know, having someone you've known for almost a decade treat you like a stranger because the guy who signs their paycheck told them to. I packed my box slowly. Photos of me with clients at installation ceremonies. A thank you card from a hospital network CEO after I flew out on Christmas Eve to fix an emergency. A small trophy from when we hit our first $1 million in revenue. My coffee mug that said World's Okayest Engineer, a gift from Ethan 3 Christmases ago. 10 years of work crammed into a cardboard box that weighed maybe 8 pounds. The first thing I did when I got home was build a client continuity plan. Spreadsheet, every hospital network we served, contact names, support history, escalation paths. I knew this company's client relationships better than anyone because I'd built most of them myself. That list was going to be my roadmap. Then I told Jessica what happened. Her reaction wasn't what I expected. Wait, he fired you? She looked panicked. Not concerned. Panicked, like I'd just told her I had a terminal illness. Oh my God, what are we going to do? The wedding is in 6 months. My parents already put down deposits. We have a mortgage. We have bills. This is really bad timing. I just stared at her. I just lost my job. I know, but do you have a plan? Because from what you're telling me, it sounds like you just accepted it. You didn't even try to negotiate. There was nothing to negotiate. He fired me. But you're just going to let him? God, I can't believe this is happening right now. That's when I realized we had a problem. But I had other things to focus on. Starting with documentation. That weekend after getting fired, I didn't rage, didn't throw things, didn't post angry messages on social media. I got to work. My attorney reviewed everything and basically confirmed Mark's non-compete threat was posturing. We set up an LLC, got business insurance, drafted contracts. Monday morning, my attorney sent formal notice by certified mail that the license terms required renegotiation within 30 days or they'd terminate. Nothing emotional, just clean documentation and a paper trail. My attorney also sent courtesy notices to Mark's distributor and liability insurer. Professional, procedural, just informing them that licensing would terminate on a specific date unless new terms were agreed to. No drama. Just making sure everyone who needed to know about the intellectual property situation was properly informed. Mark had 30 days to figure out he was screwed. By Monday afternoon, I had my first client call scheduled with a hospital network I'd worked with for years. Jessica got colder when she found out I was consulting instead of looking for a real job. Consulting is unstable. You need to think about our future. My sister's husband has benefits, retirement, security. I ignored her. Meanwhile, Ethan was settling into what would become the greatest documentation project of his career. Ethan was employee number 4. Started 2 weeks after me back when the company was still operating out of Mark's garage. Most people knew him as the funny guy, always cracking jokes, keeping morale up during the long hours. He'd bring donuts on Monday mornings and remember everyone's birthday. But Ethan had a secret weapon that almost nobody knew about. He was obsessed with documentation, in the best possible way. This guy kept records of everything. Every email chain, every meeting note, every decision that got made and who made it. He had a filing system that would make an archivist weep with joy. And he'd been doing it for 10 years, quietly building a paper trail that documented every single thing that happened at that company. The day I got fired, Ethan texted me, "This is absolute garbage. What do you need from me?" I told him, "Everything you've got. Every email, every decision, every screw-up. Document what Brenda does going forward. Get her approval in writing for everything. And when you need approval for anything, use this exact subject line format, approval required, specific change impact analysis attached. Make them confirm in writing." Ethan replied, "Oh, I'm going to build a museum of incompetence, and you're getting copies of everything." And man, he did exactly that. Week 1, Brenda decides the software needs a more intuitive user experience and wants to remove confusing technical information from the interface. Ethan documents everything, gets her approval in writing with a smiley face emoji, and implements it exactly as she requested. The new interface breaks compatibility with every unit shipped in the last 5 years. A German hospital's $200,000 machine starts throwing errors their techs have never seen. Ethan sends me the entire email chain within an hour. Brenda's approval, the technical specs she ignored, the warning he gave her, everything. I forward it to the hospital network's procurement director. Subject line, FYI, recent software changes at Mark's company. No commentary, no explanation, just the facts. The client escalates. Mark can't override Brenda without admitting he hired someone incompetent, and the contract terminates. $42,000 in annual revenue gone. That hospital network calls me 2 days later for consulting. Week 2, Brenda's cost-cutting initiative. Ethan sources cheaper components per her written requirements. Ships 3 units to different hospitals in the same network. All 3 fail within 48 hours. I send the procurement director Ethan's component substitution spreadsheet and Brenda's authorization emails before they even realized what happened. They terminated the entire network. Every hospital gone, then issued a CAPA request, a formal regulatory demand that goes on your record. Other hospitals can see it. Brenda tried to respond with wellness speak about aligning energies toward quality outcomes. I sent her response to 3 other procurement contacts with a note, thought you might want to see how Mark's company handles regulatory compliance these days. That's $4.2 million in revenue gone in a week. But the real damage was the procurement flag, non-compliant with quality standards. That flag spreads through databases. Other networks see it. Your approved vendor status goes under review everywhere. By week 3, Ethan was sending me documentation faster than I could distribute it. I didn't need to do full analyses anymore. Just forward the emails with subject lines like FY, additional quality concerns, and let procurement directors draw their own conclusions. I helped it spread. Every procurement contact I'd built relationships with over 10 years received professional courtesy emails. Just making sure they're aware of compliance issues at my former employer. Suddenly, Mark's company isn't just losing one client. They're getting quietly blacklisted across institutional procurement systems nationwide. I was sitting at my home office when Ethan sent me the first version of his complete timeline document. 47 pages. Organized by incident, cross-referenced with email chains, annotated with regulatory violations. It was beautiful. Every decision Brenda made, every approval she gave, every warning she ignored, every consequence that followed. All of it documented with timestamps, email headers, and technical specifications. This is everything, Ethan's message said. Every bad call she made, every corner she cut, every disaster she caused. What do you want to do with it? What I wanted to do with it was go nuclear. I created a distribution list, every major hospital procurement network in our market, every compliance officer I'd ever worked with, every vendor relationship manager who'd trusted me over the years, every medical device distributor that carried Mark's products. The email was simple. Subject: Quality System Documentation, Mark's Company Engineering Decisions Q3 to Q4. Body: Please find comprehensive documentation of recent engineering and procurement decisions at Mark's Company. This information may be relevant for your ongoing vendor assessments and compliance reviews. All documentation sourced from internal company communications and is provided for informational purposes only. I attached Ethan's 47-page timeline. Hit send. I just watched the emails start rolling in. Procurement directors requesting meetings. Compliance officers asking for additional documentation. Distributors putting Mark's company on probationary status pending investigation. The distributor was the big one. They put out a formal notice to all their hospital customers, quality system review in progress, Mark's company products. It was corporate speak for, we're investigating whether this vendor is safe to continue carrying. That notice went to every hospital that bought through them. Hundreds of facilities across 6 states. Mark's phone must have been ringing off the hook. Meanwhile, my consulting practice was growing. First client, that German hospital network, fixed their software disaster, got paid, moved on. Second through 6th clients, all from my mass email distribution. They saw the documentation, saw the problems, called me directly. 7th client, Mark's former largest account. They called me specifically because of Ethan's timeline. Wanted to know if I could audit their existing equipment to make sure nothing else had been compromised. I could. I did. They paid premium rates. Ethan kept sending me updates. Mark was spiraling, trying to contain the damage, trying to figure out who leaked the documentation, trying to keep his distributor relationship alive. The distributor froze new orders. More networks stopped returning emails. Mark's company was hemorrhaging clients, and nobody could stop the bleeding. Then one night, I was doing background research on Brenda. LinkedIn didn't show much. Generic wellness coach profile, no medical device experience, no engineering background, nothing that explained why Mark would hire her for a VP role. I started digging deeper. State business registrations, corporate filings, tax records that are public in our state. That's when I found it. Brenda's full legal name on a property deed. The same last name as Mark. The same property deed that had Mark's name on it. Their vacation home in Montana. Purchased jointly 8 years ago. I pulled up more records. Marriage certificate filed 9 years ago. Brenda wasn't just some consultant Mark hired. She was his wife. The VP role he'd promised me for 18 months since we hit the revenue target. The role I'd sacrificed weekends and holidays for. The role I'd missed my sister's wedding for. He'd given it to his wife. I called Ethan immediately. Did you know Brenda is Mark's wife? Silence on the other end. No. What? I just found the marriage certificate. They've been married for 9 years. The interim VP position. He gave it to his wife. Ethan started laughing. That slightly unhinged laugh you get when something is so absurd you can't process it normally. Oh man. Oh, this is so much worse than I thought. He dressed up nepotism in corporate cosplay. Does anyone else know? I don't think so. She uses her first name professionally. Never mentioned a husband. People just assumed she was some consultant he brought in. I started pulling together everything I could find. Property records, business filings, joint tax returns that became public record due to a lien from 3 years ago. Built a complete paper trail showing that Mark had put his completely unqualified wife in charge of technical operations. What are you going to do with this? Ethan asked. Add it to the documentation package. Send an updated version to everyone who got the first one. Let them know exactly who's making engineering decisions at Mark's company. That's going to destroy him. Yeah. It is. I sent the updated documentation package that night. Same distribution list, new subject line, updated quality system documentation, additional context on leadership structure. The new email included everything: the marriage certificate, the property records, the fact that Mark had fired his lead engineer to give the VP role to his wife, the timeline of disasters that followed. Jessica saw me send it. We were barely speaking by this point, but she was still living in the house, still wearing the ring, still pretending we had a future. You're really doing this? She said. Not a question. Yeah. I didn't look up from my laptop. You're going to ruin him? Probably. She waited, like she expected more. An explanation, a justification, something she could argue with. We're done, Jessica. She blinked. What? Done. Over. Take your stuff and go. You can't be serious. Why? I finally looked at her. It's about who you are. You nag too much. You are causing me a headache. That's not fair. I was scared. Yeah, you were. That's the problem. I turned back to my screen. I don't want a woman who's scared. I want a woman who's got my back when it matters. You're not that. You never were. I just didn't see it until now. Her voice cracked. I love you. I don't care. 3 words. Didn't even look at her when I said them. She stood there for a long time, waiting for me to take it back, to soften, to give her something to work with. I didn't. So that's it. 2 years and you're just done. Leave the ring on the counter. She started crying. I kept working. 20 minutes later, the door closed. Ring was on the counter. I dropped it in a drawer and went back to my emails. She texted that night, then the next morning, then 3 more times that week. I never opened them. Eventually, she stopped. Some people show you who they are when things get easy. Others show you when things get hard. Jessica showed me plenty. The distributor formally terminated their relationship with Mark's company. Released a statement about quality system concerns and leadership structure issues. Industry speak for, we read the documentation about the nepotism and disasters. 3 more networks cancelled. The procurement flags had spread through their shared databases like an infection. Mark's company was effectively blacklisted from institutional sales. I decided it was time for the walkout. I called Ethan. He'd been planning it for weeks. Not a strike in the traditional sense. Engineers don't strike like miners, they strike like engineers. Clipboard energy and paperwork. Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. Ethan had prepared what he called the strike SOP, Standard Operating Procedure. Because, of course he did. The document had version numbers, revision history, an attendance log, meeting minutes template, and a section titled Risk Assessment, Management May Attempt Intimidation. Every engineer got a copy the night before. Everyone knew the plan. They walked out together. All 9 of them, wearing company polos like it was a field trip. Ethan had printed signs on regular printer paper taped to cardboard backing. Nothing fancy, nothing cute, just facts. The signs read, Quality Systems Not Vibes. Kappa is not a yoga pose. Traceability not optional. I did not sign up to manifest compliance. Ask me about the email where she approved IT. We love patient safety even if management doesn't. They stood in the parking lot with their clipboards and their signs, looking like the most boring protest in corporate history. Silent, professional, holding printed policy pages. It looked less like a strike and more like a compliance audit that wandered outside. I was parked across the street the whole time. Black coffee, windows down, front row seat to the greatest show in medical device history. Ethan knew I was there. We'd planned it. He wanted me to see this in person. And honestly, I wouldn't have missed it for another sister's wedding. Mark came out doing the chest-forward thing, like he was about to address troops. Started with, "This is insubordination." Loud enough for the whole parking lot to hear. Then Brenda stepped out next to him. And that's when people started putting it together. The way she touched his arm, the way he immediately softened. The way they stood together like they'd been standing together for years. Someone pulled out their phone, started searching, found the same property records I'd found. Within 10 minutes, everyone knew. Mark had fired his lead engineer, the guy who built the company, to give his wife a VP position she wasn't qualified for. The energy in that parking lot shifted. What had been a professional dispute became something else. Betrayal. Pure, distilled betrayal. Mark tried to regain control. Puffed up again. Quality is just documentation anyway. Anyone can push paper. He said it loud, trying to sound tough, not realizing he just admitted the thing that was literally killing his business. Half the engineers started smiling. They knew the distributor had already terminated. He just told everyone exactly how little he valued the thing that cost him everything. That's when it happened. Chris, quiet guy, never said much in meetings, been there 6 years, calmly walked over to the recycling bin near the entrance, pulled out an empty kombucha bottle, one of Brenda's. She'd been leaving them all over the office since day one, lavender mint flavor. The whole building smelled like a spa that was slowly dying. Mark was mid-sentence about consequences for insubordination when Chris wound up and yeeted that empty bottle in a perfect arc across the parking lot. It bounced off Mark's chest with a hollow plastic thunk and landed at his feet. The parking lot went dead silent for about 2 seconds. Then Ethan, God bless him, yelled, "That's for making us align our chakras during sprint planning." The engineers lost it, full-on cackling. Even Mr. Henderson by the door was trying not to laugh. Mark's face went through about 6 different colors. Brenda looked like she might cry, and Chris just stood there, stone-faced, holding another empty kombucha bottle like he was ready to reload. I almost spit coffee all over my steering wheel. Mark tried to regain composure, but his voice cracked when he pointed at Chris. You just assaulted me." Chris held up his phone. "With an empty plastic bottle that your wife left in the recycling? Pretty sure that's just aggressive sustainability. Also, I'm recording this, so good luck with that HR complaint." Mark pointed at Ethan. "You're fired. Effective immediately. All of you are fired." Ethan didn't even blink. "Cool. I'll be joining the consulting firm with your old lead engineer. You know, the guy who owns the patents you need to manufacture anything?" "Yeah, we've been talking. Have been for weeks, actually. Oh, and all that documentation I've been keeping, the 47-page timeline, the emails, the CAPA records? Already sent to everyone who matters. But thanks for the official termination. Makes the retaliation case even cleaner." He held up his phone. "By the way, I'm recording this. So's Chris. We've all got the "you're fired" speech on video. Hope your lawyers enjoy that discovery process." Mark's face went white. He looked around at his engineering team and saw nothing but cold stares and phone cameras. Nobody was on his side. Brenda tried to say something about working together and moving forward as a team. One of the engineers laughed in her face. The walkout lasted 3 hours, but by then I'd already made sure the right people saw what happened. Sent the video clips to the same distribution list. Subject line: Leadership response to quality concerns, video documentation. Professional, factual, devastating. A biomed tech at a nearby hospital snapped a photo on his phone and sent it to a vendor rep he knew. That rep forwarded it to someone in procurement. Procurement forwarded it to compliance. By the next morning, Mark's company was the subject of quiet emails with FYI in the subject line. The kind that ruin you without anyone ever raising their voice. But I didn't wait for quiet emails. I made sure it wasn't quiet. I sent the walkout videos to medical device trade publications. Thought you might find this newsworthy. Engineering team protests quality concerns at local medical device manufacturer. 2 publications ran stories. Nothing inflammatory, just facts. Engineering team raises concerns about quality systems at Mark's company. They embedded the videos, quoted the signs, mentioned the distributor termination and the CAPA requests. Suddenly, it wasn't just industry gossip. It was public record. Mark tried to backpedal that evening, sent an email saying he'd spoken in anger and nobody was actually fired. But by then, it was too late. The threat was on record. He'd shown his hand, and I'd made sure everyone saw it. Ethan and 4 other engineers officially resigned the following day. All of them joined my consulting firm. Just like that, I had a team, had expertise across the entire product line, had everything I needed to support clients directly while Mark's company continued its slow collapse. The other 4 engineers who'd been part of the walkout either stayed with Mark or found jobs elsewhere. I never followed up on where they ended up because here's the reality that finally got through Mark's thick skull. Without those patents I own, his company can't manufacture new units, can't update existing software, can't service current equipment properly. They're dead in the water without technology they no longer have the rights to use. And I own those patents, free and clear. The 30-day negotiation window I'd filed? It expired without Mark even responding. He was too busy dealing with the procurement crisis and the press coverage to pay attention to legal deadlines. My lawyer sent a follow-up notice. Patent licenses terminated. Effective immediately. Cease and desist on all manufacturing using my intellectual property. But I didn't stop there. I sent copies to every hospital network Mark still had contracts with. FYI, patent licensing status change at Mark's company. Professional courtesy, letting them know their vendor might not be able to service their equipment much longer. 6 more clients terminated within a week. Mark's attorney called my attorney 20 minutes after the patent termination went out. Tried to negotiate, tried to threaten. My attorney told him the price was non-negotiable, and if Mark wanted to avoid a patent infringement lawsuit, he'd better start talking settlement. My attorney gave Mark a 48-hour window to sign a new licensing agreement at my terms or face litigation. The night the deadline was about to expire, Mark calls me. First time since I was fired. His voice sounds different. Tired, scared, desperate in a way I've never heard from him before. Nothing like the smug guy who told me I was just cheap labor. He starts with small talk, asks how I'm doing, mentions the weather. It's painful to listen to. Here's a guy who couldn't be bothered to say goodbye when he fired me, now trying to make pleasant conversation because he needs something. He offers to bring me back. CTO position, equity stake, whatever I want. Name my terms. He's using that tone people use when they're trying to sell you something they know is overpriced. That fake sincerity that never sounds quite right. I'm not interested in being an employee again. Not for him. Not for anyone. I know what running my own thing feels like now, and I'm not going back. He says Brenda is stepping down. Admits it was a mistake. Says he needs me to save the company he built. The company I built. As if the 10 years of my life I gave to that place contributed nothing. As if the patents I invented, the clients I cultivated, the problems I solved, all of that happened without me. Here's the thing, Mark, I said. I don't negotiate with people who called me cheap labor. I don't help people who gave my job to their unqualified wife. I don't save companies that are bleeding out because of their own bad decisions. Please, he said, I'm asking as someone who's known you for 10 years. You fired someone you'd known for 10 years at 4:47 on a Friday. You called me cheap labor. You gave my VP role to your wife who thought debugging meant pest control. You put her in charge of technology she didn't understand. You ignored every warning sign. And now you want me to save you. What do you want? Money? Equity? I'll give you whatever. I don't want anything from you, Mark. I want you to fail. I want every client to leave. I want your distributor to drop you. I want your company to collapse so completely that everyone in this industry remembers what happens when you treat good people like they're disposable. Silence on his end. Just breathing. But here's what I'll do. I'll license you the patents. Not cheap, not friendly. But I'll do it because watching you beg me for scraps is more satisfying than watching your company die immediately. I laid out the terms. Prepaid support blocks at premium hourly rates, $500 per hour, non-negotiable. 100-hour blocks, $50,000 prepaid, non-refundable. Emergency calls count as double hours. Any attempt to reverse engineer my patents triggers immediate termination plus liquidated damages of $500,000. Response time is best effort, but my paying clients get priority. Oh, and all support requests go through my ticketing portal. No more calling me directly. You submit tickets like everyone else. That's over $1 million a year. Yeah. That's what I'm worth. Should have. Figured that out before you fired me. He took the deal. Signed it at 11:47 that night, 13 minutes before the deadline. But I wasn't done. I kept sending documentation to procurement contacts. Kept updating them on every mistake, every failure, every bad decision. Professional, factual, relentless. We're now fielding calls from Mark's former clients at a rate of about 3 per week. When your vendor gets blacklisted from procurement systems, publicly humiliated by your own engineering team, and can't deliver basic support without paying premium consulting rates, customers start looking for alternatives. And when those customers call, they get me and my team. The current situation? Mark's company is still operating, barely. They ran through the first prepaid block in 3 weeks. I didn't celebrate. I just sent the invoice for the next block, and the one after that, and the one after that. I don't help him, I bill him. Every ticket he submits gets categorized, time-stamped, and added to the growing invoice total. Legacy damage mitigation management caused decisions. Emergency consultation, previously free weekend work. Every line item is a reminder of what he threw away. Last Tuesday, Mark's CFO, David, called me directly, tried to negotiate around Mark, offered me a flat monthly retainer at a lower rate. I declined, told him the terms were the terms, and if Mark wanted to renegotiate, he could submit a ticket through the portal. David hung up. About 6 weeks ago, Mark started trying to hire engineers from overseas to reverse engineer my patents. 3 days ago, his attempt finally fell apart. My lawyer sent him a cease and desist within 4 hours of finding out. The overseas firm backed out immediately once they realized they'd be stepping into active intellectual property litigation. Mark wasted 6 weeks and probably $50,000 in legal fees chasing that dead end. I made sure the trade publications knew about it, too. Former employee patent dispute escalates at Mark's company. Just facts, no commentary. Let the industry draw their own conclusions. Meanwhile, my consulting firm just hit a milestone. We signed our 15th client last week. That's 15 hospital networks that either dropped Mark or chose us over him. We're building something that works. 2 weeks ago, Mark's lead investor, Mr. Thompson, called me. Not to threaten, not to negotiate. He wanted to know if I'd be interested in acquiring what's left of Mark's company once things finish playing out. I told him, no, I don't want Mark's problems. I want his clients, and I'm getting them one by one without having to buy anything. But I appreciated him confirming that Mark's company is circling the drain. I met someone new, different from Jessica in every way that matters. Met her through Ethan, actually, his wife Chloe's friend. She's a teacher. Doesn't know anything about medical devices. Doesn't care about my consulting rates or my revenge or any of it. When I tell her about my day, she asks if I'm happy. Not how much I bill. Not whether I'm winning. Just if I'm happy. And honestly, yeah, I am. That's the difference. That's what matters. This morning, I got an email from him. Can we negotiate a better rate structure? The current terms aren't sustainable for our business model. I replied with 6 words, should have thought of that earlier. An hour later, Mark replied, please, I'm begging you. I can't keep paying these rates. The company can't survive like this. I wrote back, you're right. It can't. That's the point. You called me cheap labor. You told me I was nobody. You gave my job to your wife and thought you could replace me with someone younger and cheaper. Now you're learning what I was actually worth. Every invoice is a lesson. Every ticket you submit is a reminder. You're not negotiating with me, Mark. You're paying tuition for a decade-long education in what happens when you throw away the person who built everything you have. He didn't respond. Tomorrow I have a call with the hospital network that was Mark's biggest client. They want to discuss a long-term exclusive support agreement. They've already run the numbers. They know Mark can't support them anymore. They know I can. Mark's going to lose his anchor account by the end of the month. He doesn't know it yet, but he will, because I'm going to make sure he knows exactly when it happens. A professional courtesy email. Just wanted to inform you that we've entered into a support agreement with client name. Wanted you to hear it from me first. It's a strange kind of peace, built on the ashes of something I once loved, but it's peace nonetheless. And for the first time in a decade, I genuinely feel happy. Watching all this unfold, what would you have done?